Rob, good evening. How's it going there today?
Hello, Darren. Everything's great, my friend. Yes. Whereabouts are you? What location are you at? Are you in the US?
Yes, Long Island, New York, which you have played many times.
Strong Island, yes. Love that part of America. It's nice to talk with you. We've only got about 15 minutes, so shall we dive in?
We shall dive in. So I had the pleasure of reading your book over the last few days, and the prologue of it, which, pardon my English, screaming my tits off forever, is wonderful. And you are actually talking about the year 2020 in there. Was it the plan all along to be covering 2020, or was that added later on?
You know, Ian and I, Ian Gittins, it's just been amazing to make this book happen with. We just kept an open calendar on everything right up until the world ended, as we went into 2020. But, the great thing about this book was the openness and the honesty and just the constant search for covering as much time as we could as I can remember, which it turned out to be quite decent. But also, looking ahead. So that's part of who I am, Darren. I've always been a very optimistic person, which I think I also mentioned in the book.
Right, and it comes across very quickly in the book that you are very normal. You talk about that in the prologue, where you mentioned liking to watch Netflix and play the penny slots and go on long walks and all that.
Yeah.
Did you become normal as you got older, or were you actually this normal in your early 20s?
I think I've always been that way. And again, I reference who I am as to where I'm from. Walsall in the West Midlands is a very down-to-earth, blue-collar part of the UK. And you don't get an opportunity to put yourself on a pedestal. Not that I ever wanted to, anyway. But all of the glamour, the so-called rock and roll glamour, which for some exists, and in some areas of music definitely exists. It was never an attraction for me, Darren. It was all about the guts of my life, which has been heavy metal music.
It cracks me up how many times you reference Spinal Tap in the book when you refer to Nostradamus as Jazz Odyssey, that kind of equivalent from the Priest catalog. I've read stories about how Aerosmith, when they saw Spinal Tap in the movie theater, they thought it was a real movie. They were so high and they were actually pissed off. And Motorhead helped inspire the movie. But did you find it funny when you originally saw it in the 80s?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that little cool story about Glenn and I going to see the movie while we were on tour. We had a dive in San Diego and we snuck into a matinee and saw it and we roared. We thought, what is it? Art imitates life, life imitates art. It was a purest example of that. And in that respect, as we've always said within Priest, we take our music deadly seriously, but we have a lot of fun doing it. And the references in Spinal Tap definitely had some Priest elements from the beginning to the end of that flick.
Well, you were part of, with members of Spinal Tap, one of my favorite singles of all time, which is the Stars song that you did with Hearing Aid. And in my opinion, you have the best verse on that song. But when you were in the room with the Spinal Tap guys, was it good vibes of the fact that they were there, or did everyone kind of think that they were making fun of them?
As I can recall, as best as I can recall, everyone that did that wonderful record with Ronnie had seen the movie. So we were all, I think we were all doing the shock and awe when some of the Spinal Tap guys came into the movie. We are not worthy, And but it really is genius from an acting point of view. The performances that the guys gave were totally spot on, and they stayed in character. They stayed in character in the studio while I was there, and they never dropped out of character once, which made it even more funny. And it was just another brilliant memory for that great event that Ronnie created.
Yeah, your history really is full of these amazing stories and memories and connections that you made. One of them, which I don't recall reading about in the book, was you singing backup on the Queens of the Stone Age album. Was that a memorable thing, or is that you just did one or two takes and you got out of the room?
That was just a very spontaneous bit of rock and roll fun, yeah. I'm pretty sure I was in Sound City in Los Angeles making the Halford record, and Josh came by and just said hi and, how much a kind of priest he was and so on and so forth. And I knew of Queens of the Stone Age already, being a fan of their music. So it was just a quick, hey, we're doing this track, and would you consider coming in and laying some vocals down? And I think I was in and out in 15 minutes, But that's the kind of friendship that a lot of musicians have. We're all living the same life, and no matter what kind of music you do, there are certain parts of being a musician that replicate in your life, no matter who or where you're from. And there's this great support system, So it was, it was a very spontaneous bit of rock and roll.
And there's a great story in the book, without giving too much away, about you meeting the Queen and striking up a friendship with Scylla. Did you see her again after that incident?
I didn't know. I sent her some flowers. I sent her a huge bouquet of flowers a couple of days later. And I believe I also sent her, this didn't go in the book because it's, the great thing about Ian is that we'll talk and talk and talk, and then something will come along later, like this you're asking me, Darren. It'll trigger something. I sent her a song. I'm trying to remember now what song it was. I'm pretty certain it might have been a Priest ballad that I included in the note, and said, Scylla, here's a CD of a song. We would love to hear your rendition on it. But we didn't hear back. But shortly after that, of course, she had that tragic accident. So she was an icon and still is a legend, a national treasure from the UK. Her voice was unmatched, and it had so much style and flair and distinctive qualities about it. She was a one of a kind, Scylla.
Yeah, your book is just full of great stories of you bumping into fellow geniuses like Jimmy Page and her, Johnny Depp, Lady Gaga, etc. And the common theme of most of these run-ins is that people talk about their appreciation and admiration of you and your career. And of course, if you aren't a metalhead, if you aren't somebody that likes hard rock, you might stupidly peg Judas Priest as being an 80s band, not realizing that the roots of the band go back to the 60s, and the band is still doing great these days. I'm curious when you started to realize that you were an influential artist.
These kinds of notifications, the Apple WhatsApp notification things, they start to pop up out of the blue, and references are made towards you and about you that you're generally not prepared for, And when they do happen, it's a lovely feeling, really, because you're not searching for that, you're not expecting it. I think more than anything, it's an affirmation of what you've made with your music in a band like Priest for 50 years this year. So it's just a very generous kind of presentation to you that makes you feel good, And when you're on The Simpsons, I suppose that means you're embedded in American culture, just talking about America for a moment. But worldwide, Priest have been flying the flag for British heavy metal for 50 years. No matter where we go, there's a connection with the band and our music in the world.
Right. Well, the last time I interviewed you, you talked about how you still thought that one day you might do a blues album. Is that something you're still thinking about?
It is, and I'll give you an exclusive. It's already begun. I'm going to work on this blues. I'm working on this blues album again with my brother and my nephew and friends that worked with me together on the Celestial album. It's such a great time, and they're so talented. And that blues feeling has never left me. It's just part of rock and roll. So it's begun. We're slowly putting bits and pieces together. There's no timeline on it. But we're kicking the tires, and I've already got snippets of ideas here on my iPhone, and they sound great.
Wow, you might be the only person to do a blues album and work with Stock, Aikman, and Waterman. So that might be a first there.
You know, keeping an open mind in music is really important. As we've said many times in Priest, we're well aware of what goes on around us in metal and outside of metal. And there are so many opportunities for inspiration that it's foolish to put the blinkers on and just stay focused in one dimension. At least it is for Priest. That's why, as a band, we've always been so diverse with our music. As I said to you before, Darren, 1 minute we can be the Painkiller, and the next minute we can be the Turbo Lover. So that moment that we had with Stock, Aitken and Waterman, it came out of that open-mindedness that we have.
3 more quick questions, and then you're a free man. And the first one is, you talk about early in the book about the experience of you and the rest of the Halford family going to a professional wrestling live event and how your mom kind of caused a scene. Was there ever for you a second live professional wrestling event?
No, but I tell you what's really funny. You know, there's an app going on around now called Reface app. Somebody sent me one of Richie Faulkner going into the ring on the face of John Cena, I think it was. So I'm expecting. Actually, somebody sent me a Wonder Woman today, which is spot on. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Darren. It's called Reface app, where you can put your face on anybody. So there was that humorous thing that just happened with Richie. As far as wrestling goes, of course, I had a good friend, named Fozzy from the Fozzy band, helped me out.
Chris Jericho, yeah.
Chris, yes, known Chris for years, wonderful guy, and it's a great entertainment and sport, wrestling. I've always fancied myself as the guy that's calling out the opponents. What was that? There used to be a really famous guy that was in the corner of one of the big stars that would always yelling at the other wrestlers and throwing things at them and that kind of stuff. I've always kind of fancied myself as being one of those guys who's my bullwhip, whipping the opponents. So who knows? There's plenty of time left for that.
Paltrocast.